3rd, 2022 Baldwin County Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. Let me call roll. I'm here, Daniel Nance. Here. Brandon Bias. Here. Ernie Church, and I understand Ernie is no longer on the Planning Commission, is that right?
That's correct. Mr. Church turned in his resignation. He's relocating to be closer to family. So okay. It was a great member of our board.
Robert Davis, Plumber Townsmeyer, Jason Padgett, Micah Mullick, Greg Siebert, Bill Booyer. Okay. All right. At this time, if you will stand with me, we'll have a prayer and a pledge of allegiance. Father, we're thankful to you for this day and for the blessings you've given us. We're thankful to you for this great county we live in, for all that make it a great place to live, for our staff, for our elected officials, for our first responders, so many that make it possible, Father, for us to have a wonderful place. And Father, we are thankful for your goodness to us, and now we're here tonight to conduct the business before us. And we just pray that we'll do this in a way that honors you and shows respect to each other. Father, we lift up our country to you right now and our world and all that's going on. We know that all is in your hands, and Father, we just rest in that. And we pray all this now in the name of Jesus. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, at this time, we'll have the approval of our minutes, both our work session for February 3rd and our regular meeting minutes. You have a copy of both of those for February 3rd. Do I have any corrections to those? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Move their approval.
Okay, do I have a second?
Seconded.
Is that Greg? All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, minutes are approved. All right, once again, welcome to our meeting tonight. Let me cover a couple of things before we actually go into our public hearings. If you have an interest in speaking on any item tonight, I hope that you stopped at the front desk and filled out the paperwork there. They will bring those to me, and at the appropriate time, I will call on you to have your opportunity to speak on the item as it comes up. We will open a public hearing for each item, and you'll have an opportunity to speak when I call on you. Our staff will speak, the applicant will speak, Planning Commission members will ask questions. At some point, I will close the public hearing. When I close the public hearing, please understand that you won't be able to speak to that again. So we'll give you plenty of opportunity to speak to it before we close the public hearing. But again, you need to fill out the paperwork out front so that I can have your name. I would ask that you mute your phones. Also, by the way, when you speak, you'll need to come to the podium, give us your name and address. And I would ask that if at all possible, to keep your comments to within 3 minutes. If someone else speaks on the same item you're speaking to and they've already said it, just let us know that those comments have been made. So we have quite a few here tonight. So I think we'll go into our public hearings. I am going to move one item up on the agenda, gentlemen, since it has been requested to be withdrawn. In case you folks are here for this item tonight, it's case number PRD 21-4, Northwoods. The applicant has requested to withdraw the item entirely. At first it was to postpone, but now they've asked to withdraw the item. So if you're here on that item tonight, there will be no public hearing on it. They will have to start the process over once they decide, if they choose to do so. So, Matthew, we need any other additional information on that other than to vote on it?
That's correct.
Okay. So I would entertain a motion to accept the applicant's request to withdraw it.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we withdraw the application per the applicant's request.
Mr. Brandon's made the motion. Do I have a second? Jason, I second the motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, so we'll go back now to the beginning of our agenda. At this time, I will open the public hearing for case number SC 22-1, which is the Old Pierce Farms subdivision. Does anyone on the Planning Commission needed to declare any prior communication on this item? Okay, Mary?
Good evening, everyone. This is preliminary plat approval for Old Pierce Farm subdivision. This is a 6-lot subdivision. Before you is the proposed preliminary plat. This is your property data information. There are no new streets. The vicinity map is located on Old Pierce Road. It's just north of Champion Road. It is currently unzoned. It is located outside of Fairhope's planning jurisdiction, so it is totally totally inside the county. We did have a drainage narrative prepared. There are no drainage improvements recommended. The drainage narrative has been reviewed and accepted by Baldwin County Highway Department. We did have wetland delineation prepared by Barry A. Vitar and Associates. There were no jurisdictional streams or wetlands identified. There is an existing drainage conveyance that flows eastwardly to an unnamed tributary of Lewis Branch and is reflected on the plat and will not be disturbed. They do have wetland buffers applied to that. Staff does recommend that the preliminary plat be approved. There are no conditions for approval, and I welcome any comments that you have for me.
Okay. Does anyone on the Planning Commission have any questions of staff? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Booth. I have one person signed up to speak. Mr. J.P., am I saying this right? Quinn? Would you like to speak to this?
I'm J.P. Gwynn. Address is 17068 Count Court, Fairhope. I'm the owner of the property and have designed the development of the property. And I really don't have any other comments, but I would certainly take any questions that you have, and am open to that. So.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the owner? Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right.
I have no one else signed up. By chance, did I miss anybody that intended to speak? Okay. Mary, you have anything else to add?
No, sir.
All right. No questions from the Planning Commission? I'm going to close the public hearing. Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of the plat approval of the Old Pierce Farm subdivision.
Okay, motion's been made by Michael Mullet. I have a second.
Second.
Is that Bill?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Motion's made second. Any questions, comments? All right. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion's approved. Okay, our next item is case number SC 22-3, DeBrava subdivision. Does anybody need to declare any prior communication on this item? Okay, it's all yours.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, this is very similar to the prior case, a fairly straightforward 2-lot subdivision where everything is in order. You see your plat here on screen. Here is the full-size plat itself. We'll get the location data here for you in just a moment. The basic site data, as you see, just a couple points to emphasize for the Commission's information. This is in Planning District 14, which is unzoned. 2 lots, as we mentioned before. You see all your site data on screen. No new streets are requested by this subdivision. As it's less than 50 lots requested, no traffic studies required. You'll see in just a moment that no drainage improvements are required. There's a drainage narrative you'll see in just a moment. We zoomed in on the plat itself here, Commissioners, as you see on this slide. You see this area here. This is southwest of Silver Hill at the intersection of West Boulevard and County Road 48. Larger vicinity map for your information here, Commissioners. and also, as we typically do, give you an aerial image as well. This is a 2021 image. And as you see, this is within Planning District 14. We wanted to show its proximity to some of the other planning jurisdictions, as well as some of the other the planning jurisdictions by some of the cities that are close by. But similar to the prior case, it is fully within the county. You see on the map on the right its proximity to some of the city limits. Mr. Schumer is with us here today on behalf of the property, on behalf of the developer, and this is not requiring any drainage improvements. Was reviewed by our colleagues at the Highway Department. Just zooming in here where you can see that the engineer indicated that the drainage improvements are not required. Similarly, there are no wetlands on the site, but a delineation was conducted as you see here on screen, and so the staff recommendation is for approval, subject to compliance with the Baldwin County subdivision regulations. Commissioners, I'm happy to answer questions on behalf of staff, and as we said, Mr. Schumer is here on behalf of the applicant.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Mr. King, is that a parcel in the northeast corner of the site? It looks to be a separate parcel, maybe?
That's a great
Cell
question,
tower?
Commissioners. Yes, sir. And let me go and try to zoom in it for you as best I can. Perhaps, Commissioners, this may be the best image, and I don't know if my pointer is showing up on your screen. But that is correct. That is a separate parcel that is excluded from this subdivision that was created prior to this application. And Commissioners, that actually, there's an existing cell phone tower on that separate parcel. What you will notice is all the various, and you can tell it's a separate parcel because you'll notice also the various setbacks work around that parcel. But yes, sir, that is not included in this division.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, thank you, Mr. King. I only have one sign up. Mr. Schumer, would you like to speak?
David Schumer, 3213 Midtown Park South in Mobile. I'm just here to answer any questions if anything comes up, if there's any other concerns or anything.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Mr. Schumer. You got off easy tonight. All right. Mr. King, you have anything else you need to add?
No, sir. I think that's all, Commissioners.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you, and happy to answer anything further.
All right. Unless you have some questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Mr. Bias has made a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Seconded.
Daniel Nance has seconded the motion. Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Our next item now will be in our zoning cases. We open a public hearing for case number ZSP 21-247, Beller's property.
Okay.
Ms. Hart? Oh, let me say her and ask. Does anybody need to clear any prior communication on this item before we? I think we're good. It's all you.
Okay, this is the Beller's property. It is located at 12534 County Road 99 in Lillian. The owner is Ronald Bellers. The applicant is requesting commission site plan approval to allow a trailer for storage of ice machine supplies and the sale of sandwiches and peanuts. Here's the aerial view of the map of the parcel and the adjoining zoning map. The south property is an unopened right-of-way, Rosalia, to the south. This is the site plan showing the location of the 10 by 36 trailer for storage, and he would like to sell concessions, sandwiches, peanuts type things. The ice machine and the shed that's shown on here have been in place for some time. And those were already there. I wanted to, okay, hold on. This is his parking plan that he submitted. He is required to have 4 spaces, which are shown on the south portion of the property. The two to the north, which are already existing on the parcel, are overflow parking. They are in the highway construction setback, and only overflow parking is allowed there. Sorry. This is the subject property. It's already all in place with the gravel parking and everything. And these are the adjacent properties. On February 10th, he had a variance application which was approved to allow the ice machine, the shed with the vending machine, and the new trailer to remain where in the current location. The setback is 25 feet for this parcel on that south side, and they are allowed, the variance was granted to allow him to leave everything as it is. And these are pictures supplied by the applicant of his part of the parking and the gravel and entrances. And we classified this as a delicatessen because he's selling. We did have a few comments from Highway about and he does have his all of his required items has been received for his site plan. So it's currently zone B2, neighborhood business, and it's occupied with a modular building, ice machine, vending machine. It adjoins County Road 99 and 7th Street. We feel that he has turned in all of his required items, and staff feels this is a reasonable request, and we have recommended approval of this application.
Okay.
All right.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Hart?
DJ, did I hear you correctly? The trailer was placed, well, let me start over. The vending machine and the ice machine were in place, and then he put the trailer there.
Yes.
Both of which ended up being in the setback, so he had put everything there and then comes and asks for forgiveness.
Yeah, the ice machine and the vending machines were there by a previous owner.
Sure, okay.
And then he put the vending machine, the trailer there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
But he did, Mr. Seibert, he did get that approved by Board of Adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
That's right, and just a couple points of clarification on this. There was a violation on the site against the previous owner, and then he came and, I understand, purchased it, and I believe he's here today so he can answer some of these questions. And he kind of, I think, saw those other buildings that were near the property line and just assumed he could then put his building. Now, he was supposed to come and get a site plan approval before he even brought that building on there. But when these situations occur, our philosophy is when we find out about them, we say, okay, what steps could bring this into compliance? We gave him those steps, and he has gone through and checked all those boxes. And the Board of Adjustments, which is another autonomous citizen board, they could have said, no, we're not going to give you this variance. And I think our recommendation was a denial because there was no hardship on the property, but they chose to give him the variance, and so now that allows him to come before you and get this commission site plan approval. And one other final thing I want to note, you'll actually be approving the site plan that shows the required parking that he submitted today, and not this one. This is the older one that's actually shown on the screen, and I believe you all were handed a copy of that slightly updated site plan, and it's back on this prior one. So I just wanted to clarify that for the minutes.
Okay. Any other questions for staff?
I do. The ice machine, is it one of the, I'm just curious, because the new site plan parking's in front of it. Is it one of those drive-up machines, or is it actually a walk-up? Because the site plan would be incorrect if the machine's actually one of the drive-up.
I think he said it was a drive-up. He had put some posts to keep people from driving up to it. So you have to park and walk up to the ice machine.
Okay.
But you can confirm he's here.
Okay, so if he's had bollards, then this would make sense. If there's no bollards in front, it's a drive-up machine, so your parking's actually inadequate based on the site plan. If it's one of the machines that are all over the county. I'm just curious, Matthew, on that.
So that's a great question. So is your question essentially whether or not there is sufficient required parking based on the fact that this ice machine has its own separate parking requirement?
Yeah. I mean, according to the site plan, it's one of the machines that I've used, you can drive to it or drive through, then you wouldn't have the, I mean, it looks to be space on the, where you could stick the parking somewhere else, but if we're approving this site plan, that parking would be inadequate.
So that's a great question. What I would recommend in this situation is that if you still, that we, any approval be contingent on us taking a second look. The overflow parking that he has marked is parking that he currently has existing on site. He's only required to have 4. The 2 overflow are actually in the highway construction setback. So what we could do is get back with him and look at, he told us there's some other space he has on the other side of the modular building, and then make sure he meets the parking requirements. So perhaps let's just add that contingency to any approval, and we'll make sure that that's accounted in the final site plan. Great question.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Mr. Bellers, the only one signed up, would you please come up?
I couldn't hear you back there real good. I didn't have my hearing aids, but my name's Ronald Bellers, and I own Twice the Ice Machine at 12534 County Road 99. And all I'm doing is when the 2 spots that you're seeing up there, handicap, okay, and that used to have gravel that went all the way up to the ice machine. I took all that out. I spent about $4,000, put 16 by 16 patio blocks in so they could walk up there. If they had a walker, they could park there, get out, get their ice, or a pop or whatever. And I needed storage for the ice machine, for the bags and stuff. That's the reason I got the trailer in the beginning. But my daughter, she was going to sell boiled peanuts down there and some hot dogs and stuff. And just, you know, she used to be a truck driver, and she got out of it because it was too much. So she moved down here and bought a house in Seminole, and that's how she's going to try to make some money. But another thing, too, is like Matthew said, the parking spots back there, they told me I had to have 4, so we put 4 on there. And I don't have no problem with that, and the other 2. But if I took them ones out in front, I'm worried about somebody getting hurt. That's the reason I put those patio blocks in there. Because it's flat surface, not that big A57 rock, you know what I mean, to walk on. But, and another thing, with that trailer, we had a lot of crime down there. And I'm working with the police department. I have been working with them. And it's right by the boat dock. And I got a letter here. I'd like to, if I could run it past you real quick. I put extra lighting down there because we had a lot of homeless starting problems down there and drugs. But
Mr. Bellers, maybe you can explain for the sake of the audience what the letter says while they're passing it down.
Oh, okay. Dan Stillman,
Just go ahead and speak into the microphone. You can still speak to the chairman, but just explain what that letter is.
So go ahead and speak in here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Dan Stillman, he's a detective right over here in Robertsdale, and he approached me on the problem that we were having down there. I even put a spot over there where the police could park. Police parking, put a police sign up, said police. They stole it. Okay, you can believe that or not, that's a true story. So anyways, he says, Ron, is there any way that we could put our thing for our camera, because we got to watch the boat dock, Highway 98 and 99, in your trailer? He said, that'd be the perfect spot for it. And I said, well, I don't know. I made a mistake by not getting a permit. I agree to that. I'm sorry about that. I didn't really know what was going on because it was, you know, you could roll it or whatever. But anyways, he said, I'd like to put our equipment in that trailer to run this camera. He said, but you have to pay for the Wi-Fi. I've been paying 3 months for the Wi-Fi because all this has been on hold. And I'm paying that out of my own pocket. I put up 3 lights to keep that all lit up around there so they could keep an eye on the other places around me that nobody's taking care of. And it's working. The crime and stuff is working down there. That's the only thing I can say. And, you know, if you want to, you can talk to Dan Stillman, because that's all I know. I can't really say no more. All I can say is the people like it. If you go by down there in Lillian and turn right at before you cross the bridge, I cleaned it up. It looks nice. It's got plenty of light. And they're going to keep an eye on that boat dock where people have been robbing the trucks and prostitutes.
Thank you, Mr. Beller. Does anybody have any questions for the owner? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I have no one else signed up. Did miss anybody? Okay. Ms. Hart, you have any?
No.
Anybody have any questions for staff? I'm going to close the public hearing. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move approval on it and thank Mr. Bellards for what he's doing for the local police department down there.
Do we need to add the condition, Matthew, that you mentioned?
That would be great if we could add just the condition that we'll do a final check on the parking spots and it'll be subject to that.
I beg your pardon. Yes.
You include that in your
Under the condition that was raised. Thank you.
Okay. And staff, you had an additional item, did you?
I did. There are some flags in front of the building already out near the right-of-way. Those flags are not allowed by the zoning ordinance. So, and I also checked, he had an American flag that's on it's a flag, not a regular standard flag. And in the zoning ordinance only allows a standard flag to be flown as a regulation flag. So those flags are not allowed, and he'll have to remove those, and he can apply for a sign that's allowed through the ordinance, through our planning and zoning department.
Sorry, Bill, but can you add that to your motion also?
Yes, I will be more than happy to.
All right. I think we got all the items now.
Yeah.
Do I have a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Michael Mullock, second the motion. Any questions or comments before we vote? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is case number ZSP 22-49, Middleton property. Does anybody need to declare any prior communications on this item? Okay, Ms. Lee?
Okay. This property is located in Planning District 12 and it's Zone B4, and its current use is a storage facility. The applicant is requesting approval to construct 4 additional storage buildings on the site. This is your locator map and your area photography. And this is a picture of the subject property. And as you can see, there's currently 3 storage buildings already on site. These are pictures of the adjoining properties. The zoning ordinance requires a 30-foot buffer adjacent to residential property. Said buffer shall consist of a combination of canopy trees, understory trees, and shrubs, which shall be of sufficient height to create a visual barrier. I bring that up because this site plan that was submitted with the agenda package did not have the required plantings in the landscape buffer. You all have received a revised site plan tonight that does have the required plantings and meets the bare minimum of the zoning ordinance. The zoning ordinance also requires a 10-foot landscape buffer on the property line adjacent to Highway 59. The site plan shows what is currently planted along that property line. This is the site plan showing the 4 new buildings. And the purpose of this view is to show you all that south lane only measures 21.7 feet. So the applicant has sent you all a revised plan that shows that that one lane is going to go one way. The requirement is 11 feet wide in each direction, which would be 22 feet wide. So since it's a little bit shy of what is required, he is making that a one-way access. These are the elevations, and the building does not exceed the maximum height allowed. This is a picture of the facade on the buildings, and the new buildings are to match the this existing facades, which does meet the zoning ordinance requirement. And these are pictures the applicant submitted showing the current landscaping on the property. As stated previously, the applicant is requesting commission site plan approval to allow for 4 additional storage buildings. The original recommendation was to deny due to the landscape buffer plan not meeting the zoning requirement. Since the applicant has submitted a revised landscape plan that does meet the zoning requirements, staff is willing to recommend approval subject to the following conditions. The Planning Commission may specify a period of time different than the 180-day default time period from Section 18.2.4 for the commencement, issuance of a building permit of the proposed use. Failure to comply with any such condition or restriction imposed by the Planning Commission shall constitute a violation of these ordinances. Any expansion of the proposed structures or facility shall necessitate additional review by the Planning Commission, subject to staff approval of technical requirements, and staff will add one more condition, and that is that the 10-foot landscape buffer adjacent to Highway 59 has additional plantings to fill in that south portion because they only have a couple of plants right now, well, 2 little areas, and the zoning ordinance requires it to be the full width of the parcel at that site. And I'll answer any questions that you have for staff.
Ms. Lee, this may be a question for the applicant, but in the one-way street, since this is gravel, he obviously is not going to paint it. Is he going to put signage to indicate one way? It's not enough to put it on the paper because.
I understand.
Did they say that they would sign that?
That would be a question for the applicant, but
okay.
that is a good point.
Anybody else have any questions for staff?
I have one. It appears on the aerial image there's a building of a type where there's a proposed new building going. Am I seeing that correctly?
I'm sorry, say that again.
It appears on the aerial image there is a building of a sort where I guess this would be the northeast new proposed building is gonna be.
Oh, okay. I'm going to presume that building has been removed because here's the pictures that were taken recently, and those are the storage buildings that were previously built, and where you see the red dirt is where these new buildings will be going. The area photography is from January, February of 2021, so it's over a year old, so it's very possible that the building has been demolished.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for staff?
I have one just because we went back and looked at it. So is there an existing land disturbance permit for what's happened there for the knocking on the building? And I see the equipment and we've moved dirt. Is that under the old permit or?
So he does have a land disturbance application that hasn't been approved yet, but it was due to some issues with the drainage ponds. I think that has been corrected and we should be able to go forward with it. But it does appear that they did bring in the dirt prior to getting approval.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Lee. I have one sign up. Mr. Granger.
Chairman, Commissioners. Tom Granger with Sawgrass Consulting. And first question on the aerial, yes, that building was removed. And some of the complications here are strictly my fault. We got approval some months ago, or a year and a half ago, and I didn't know that approval had run out, so we started the next phase and then was made aware that 6 months was up. So anyhow, that's why the red dirt's there. But I don't have any problem with meeting the landscaping conditions that Ms. Lee stated. We want to make it look good. We've done a lot of landscaping now, and we're going to do some more. Most of the complications are all on my part, and going through the bushes, what's a bush and what's a shrub and what's a tree. I'm an engineer, not a landscape architect, and I should have known better. But yes, we are in operation at the buildings that were approved, and we're just seeking to expand in the same location. Okay. If you have any other questions, I'm be happy to answer.
What about that signage? I mean,
I can put a sign. Yes, on the corner of the building, we can put a one-way sign. I have no problem doing that. And that, if you'll see, it's only 21.7 feet in the future, you know, when the new buildings come in. Not that that matters, but those buildings to the south aren't there. So it's going to be wide open, but, you know, obviously when we come back, and we'll probably have to come back with a new site plan, and we may restructure that building to make it 22 feet at that time, but I have no problem making it one way and signing it appropriately.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir. Mr. Granger's the only one I had signed up. Oh.
And Matthew's question, I maybe misunderstood, but the standard approval is for 180 days, correct? And I can request an extension of that. And I thought I had, and is that still in play?
That's right. You can request a longer period of time, and you're right. You did request that by email, and I apologize that we haven't incorporated that in. What type of time frame do you feel like is appropriate for these extra 4 buildings?
If I could do the maximum 18 months. The problem construction right now is very difficult, whether it be dirt work or whether you order pieces and parts. The steel is very, we don't know when it's coming, and it's getting harder and harder. What used to be a 4-month delivery is an 8-month delivery now, and I can't predict that. So okay. That I would formally request if 18 months is the max. Is that correct?
18 months sounds like a good request. That's something we just recently changed in our ordinance to provide more flexibility, because we recognize that 6 months is sometimes just not enough time given the unknowns that exist with some of these.
And we discussed this, Matthew, especially on facilities, storage facilities, where you can't bite the whole apple at one time, and so you get approval for the site plan. I call it a master plan, whatever, but you only do a piece of it, and next thing you know, and that's where I tripped up in thinking that I was approved. I did not realize there was a time limit. But if I could request an extension of site plan approval for 18 months in lieu of the 6 months, it would ease my mind if I could do that.
We'll take that in consideration.
Thank you.
All right. That was the only one signed up. Did I miss anyone that wanted to speak? Okay. Any other questions for staff? Ms. Lee, you have anything else to add?
No, sir.
All right, then I'm going to close the public hearing. We will need to, if you make a motion to approve, you'll need to include the conditions that Ms. Lee has outlined, and now offered for consideration is the time frame of moving it to 18 months instead of the 180 days.
Matthew, question on the 18 months. Are we setting a new precedence? I know that everything's changing. I mean, even in my business, it's hard to get anything, but by doing that, are you going to have to consider it each time, or is it just kind of set it out there?
So likely, yes, but I don't know that it's a bad precedent, because what we're finding is that people they need to know that they're going to get this approval before they invest the money in the actual ordering the building. Well, then suddenly it turns out there's other steps. So their 6 months is expiring, and then they have to come back in front of us and go through the whole process again, and it bogs down our process. So we feel like this is a reasonable way to address that. And really the reason why they have to get your permission instead of us being able to give it unilaterally, it makes them accountable, and you all can consider, is this reasonable? Is 18 months a reasonable request? And if you all felt like 18 months was too much, you could say, hey, listen, we'll give them 12 months instead of 18.
Okay. So any discussion on the time frame, now would be a good time to express that.
With all of the supply chain, Mr. Chairman, issues, I would suggest that extending to 18 months is probably not unreasonable at this time. And given the circumstances, as I say, with the supply chain difficulties for not just these products but others, I don't think we're setting a precedent that we couldn't step back from at some point in the future when things are more normal.
Okay. Any other comments, questions related to that? Okay. Mr. Davis made a motion to approve, subject to the conditions by staff and including the 18 months. Is that correct? And Mr. Paget has seconded the motion. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion's approved. All right, we've already taken action on our next item, Northwoods. We'll move now to the next item and open a public hearing for case number PRD 21-5, Our Road Cottages. It's my understanding, I'll go ahead and announce it at this time, the applicant has asked that we postpone this to our May meeting, I believe. Selena?
That is correct. May or further.
But we will hold a public hearing on it tonight. So if you came to speak to this item, we will give you the opportunity to speak on it tonight. But just understand, we will not be taking action on it tonight. It'll be postponed, and we'll explain more about that as we get into it. So let me ask if anybody need to declare any prior communication on this item. Okay, Selena.
All right, this is a request, a PRD request. The subject property is located in Planning District 25, just on the south side of State Highway 180 and west of our road. It is currently zoned RSF1, and it contains 5.53 acres and is currently vacant. The applicant is asking for a 11 lot development, with 7 of those lots being built as residential. As you see, the subject property is surrounded by RSF1 zoning. To the east, there is some commercial zoning. Here's some pictures of the adjacent properties and the subject property. The current RSF1 zoning, the required density is 30,000 square feet. The applicant has proposed their density be 34,400 square feet, which is just a little bit more than what is required. One of the purposes of the reason people do a PRD are intended to encourage the development of land as planned communities, encourage flexible and creative concepts of site planning, preserve the natural amenities of the land by encouraging scenic and functional open areas, accomplish a more desirable environment than would be possible through the strict application of the minimum requirements of these ordinances, provide for an efficient use of land resulting in smaller networks of streets and utilities where access to regional systems is impractical, and thereby lowering the development and housing costs, and provide a stable environment character compatible with surrounding areas. This is the project summary that the applicant had posted on his site plan. Here is a table of the site data. As I stated earlier, it consists of 5.53 acres. The smallest lot being 6,524 square feet. The total number of lots is 11. It states the amount of the impervious surface, and the total residential units is 7. Here's their statement of impacts on the public service and also the ownership of common facilities. Their utilities will be EMC and Gulf Shores and CenturyLink. Here is their site plan, one of their site plans they submitted. As you can see up top, it shows the wetlands and the mouse habitat. Here is a letter with their wetland assessment report, and then also where it shows their wetland, the setback buffer from the wetlands, and the beach mouse habitat area. This was their previous proposed site plan. I will get to their new one. They added the parking spots to it. As you can see, the lots are about 55 feet wide. Each lot has their own pool. Here is the outline of pretty much the whole development. It consists of 5.53 acres. Lots 1 through 7 will be the residential lots where the homes are built. Each of them are about 6,524 square feet. The blue lot, which is open space number 8, it is around 9,000 square feet. The orange area is the common area number 9, and it's about 14,000 square feet. This will be the right-of-way in and out to these lots. And then you have open space 10 and 11, which is quite a bit of land. These are proposed for conservation. The PRD requires a minimum of 20% of the development to be open space, which for this development, it would be about 48,177 square feet. The applicant is proposing that the open space and common area is 195,000 square feet. This is their drainage diagram notes. This is their landscape plan. And here is some new updated site plans that I had received today. And here is where it shows the parking. Their parking space right now, they're proposing 6. 4 of them being under the house and then 2 in the driveway. There is a 1,800 square foot footprint of the home. It'll be 3 stories with parking on the ground level, and then the first and second floor will be living. They are proposing about 6 bedrooms for these homes. And with Planning District 25, the parking requirements would require them at least 3 parking spaces for a 6-bedroom house. Here's the comments from Highway, ALDOT, Fish and Wildlife, and ADEM, and also our Natural Resource Planner. We have received comments back from the Fort Morgan Advisory Committee. They recommended denial of their request. And they also, I went through some of their concerns that they had stated in their letter in their minutes. Please note that the Fort Morgan Planning and Zoning Advisory Board mentioned that the applicant failed to comply with sections 9.5.3 G through J and sections 9.5.4 B and C. These sections only apply to conceptual plans, which are part of a large-scale PRD. This is considered a small-scale PRD. Large scale is if they only have 1,000 acres or more. They also had concerns about the off-street parking, and I just showed that with their new site plan. They can park up to 6 vehicles per home. They are only required 3. These 3 spaces do need to be where they're functional. They can get in and out without having to move another car. So the applicant might have to go back and look at exactly where they're planning on parking these cars. Another issue was they stated they had concerns with it being in the coastal high hazard area, which doesn't allow a change in zoning. but the subject property is not in a coastal high hazard area. It is in a flood hazard area, which you can have a rezoning as long as it's limited to low-density, single-family uses, and that is what the applicant is proposing. Also, there was concerns about the dune walkover regulations. If this is approved and the applicant does start to build the 3 dune walkovers, they will have to get a separate permit for those dune walkovers. They're only allowed during certain times of the year because of turtle nesting, and they do go past the CCL line in order to help protect more of the dunes. You don't want pedestrian traffic through the dunes. We received numerous letters and emails from citizens in Fort Morgan, and they are all found in that file which you got the link to. In conclusion, the proposed development is a PRD, and it's to be known as R Road Cottages. The subject property is currently undeveloped and zoned RSF1. It adjoins our road and is just south of 180. The development consists of 11 lots, which 7 of them would be developed residentially. Each residence will have a 1,800 square foot footprint with a maximum height of 35 feet. Each residence would have their own pool and also their own parking area. Each residential lot will average about 6,524 square feet. Also, if this PRD does get approved, they will also have to get subdivision approval. Staff has reviewed this application. They have met most of the requirements except for the usable open space. That was one major concern staff had because 50% of the open space has to be usable for recreationals, and it cannot include steep slopes, streams, ponds, watercourses, wetlands, floodways, or floodplains. This development, the whole development is either located in a VE or an AE zone. Therefore, it is in a floodplain, so they have issues meeting that 50% usable open space. Staff has recommended that the applicant apply for a variance to see if they could get a variance from the usable open space, because in an area around Fort Morgan, most of your usable space would be in the sand along the beach, which would be pretty much located in a floodplain. So therefore, staff has asked that this application be postponed at least until the May meeting to see if they could get a variance. And the applicant also requested that it be postponed.
Okay. All right, so since the advertisement for this was already out before the applicant made the request to postpone, so if you are here tonight, we will hold a public hearing, allow you the opportunity to speak to this with the understanding that if they get their variance request that they need, then they'll obviously be back here in May. At that point in time, we would take action and realize that action will be a recommendation to the county commission. So we don't have the final say. We'll just make a recommendation at that point in time. It'll go to the county commission. If the county commission approves it, they will then have to come back to us again for subdivisional plat approval. And then with that, they will have many permitting issues they'll have to address with ADM and others. And so they're a good ways away from that. So before I open up public hearing, does anybody have any questions for staff? I tried to hopefully frame what the process will be on this. I think Selena spoke to most of it, but okay. We have quite a few signed up. Let me begin though with Mr. Watkins, who represents the applicant. Let him come up.
Good evening. I'm Chad Watkins, WAS Design. I'm representing the project as you've indicated. Appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of the project. It's interesting. We feel like this is a nice little cottage development. There's a lot of folks here that think I'm nuts, and I can appreciate that as well. I don't have a lot to say. I'm really here for questions, but I would point out, if y'all go back to the slide that has all the highlight about what a PRD's intention is, if you don't mind doing that for me. One of the early ones, wasn't it? That was it. No, you know what you're doing. No, it's as y'all's language about PRD's purpose, yeah, from your code. That's it. That's all I need. Okay. If I was going to do a long presentation, this would be it, because I believe that we are about as close as any project I've done, and I hadn't done all of them for sure, but we check a lot of the boxes of what's the intention of this. That's why we brought it to you in this form, because we believe it was the right method to attempt to do some responsible land development. So if there are questions or things come up, I'm here to help. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant's representative? Okay. Since there are quite a few that have signed up, again, I will ask, please respect our time, and we want you to be sure and get your points out, so try to keep it to 3 minutes, or if somebody says something that you were going to say, just acknowledge that. But I will call on each one of you, so you have the opportunity to come up and speak. Marcia Robert.
Good evening. I'm Marcia Robert, 568 Our Road. I'm going to hit on one major point. When you see these cottages, well, they're not going to be cottages, but when you see these, right to the east is Our Road. Well, Our Road comes into an L, which goes into a dead end. We can't handle the overload of parking on our road as it is. It has become a safety issue, because at the bottom of the L of our road, this being 180, this is a beach access. So every surrounding area that needs a place to park to go to the beach uses our road, okay? We have flooding already there. We've had emergency vehicles have trouble maneuvering our road because people park on both sides of it. One time in particular, I got cornered and couldn't get out. I had to lay on my horn to get the attention of someone to allow me out. And I thank God, unlike one of our runners who had a heart attack, I got the attention and I was able to eventually get out. These are things that are really concerning to us, the safety. Lots of people go at that beach access, the overflow of the Rookery, the no parking on Beach Boulevard by the Rachel. We've inherited that traffic. So I understand, and I'm pretty sure this is all going to happen. All we're asking is, get your road. Call it their road. Or how about my road? We'll be glad to be friendly and neighborly, but do it without infringing on the problem of safety. And that's just one point. And we've been there 27 years, and we can't handle any more. And the street, unlike Beach Boulevard, and I only use that because it's the closest example, we're like basically a one-way width of a road. We don't have 2 lanes. And in that corner here, they built one of these huge 3-story things. And I sent in pictures that will show you the gouging into the sand. They get stuck. You can't get them out. It's just a problem, a serious problem, especially when it comes to safety. And we've experienced it. Thank you. Y'all check out my road. And you're welcome to our road.
Paula Visinat. Okay, you're doing what now? I'm sorry. Okay. Linda Klump.
I'm Linda Klump, 568 Our Road. I also agree with what Marcia had said about the problems with the parking and the density that's been now after 27 years. As I looked at some of the things, and now that I'm hearing that these cottages are going to be 6 bedrooms, it seems like to me, in my original thought of this property was going to be much smaller, because a cottage is a simple little house, you know, near a lake or a beach. I didn't expect to hear 6 bedrooms, and I know the parking more, they need more parking now. So all of that's going to add to the problems that we already have on our road. So that's all I have to say.
Okay. Mary Kay Kelly. You'll have to, if you're going to say anything, you'll have to come to the mic. Sorry.
Hello, Mary Kay Kelly, 568 Our Road. And for the record, we're not all there at the same time. Okay, when I just saw 7 cottages, 3 stories high, with pools, and they're in the wetlands, and we already have flooding, I have a concern with having 50 more people in that area right there. We already have 2 houses that sleep like 25 people on bookends on the corners of each of our road. So the car traffic from them, everything. And so this is just going to add to it. So I'd like to propose what Marcia said, make another road off of 180 and we'll be fine. So I guess I did reiterate, sorry.
Okay. Jamie Stradiger.
Hi, I'm Jamie Stradiger, 3510 Ponce de Leon. We are all here from the best district in Baldwin County, Fort Morgan, and we're very proud homeowners, we're proud residents, and we do know that there's going to be development. We would just like for it to be more environmentally safe and sensitive to the problems that we have existing down there now. In 2018, we had some new commissioners that came to one of our Fort Morgan Civic Association meetings, and Jeb Ball spoke and assured us that development would not happen to us, it would happen with us. And that's absolutely what I think we really need to get on that page with down in District 25. I think a lot of development is happening to us, and long-term residents that have been there for decades are now seeing problems that we have never seen before. People being flooded in their houses for 19 weeks. Sewage mains that are being broken, just the sewage lines that are being broken because of similar things like this parking at the beach access. The sewer lines run next to the road. So if they try to move off so that traffic can pass, they're in the sand. It's not like snow, it's not going to melt. So all they do is just spin their tires until they break a sewer line, which has happened on my property in our house several times. We have to call up Sewage and Water Board. Those people were there for the day. They're gone. They haven't had to use the restrooms or use the houses at all. They just come in for the day. So a lot of the parking problems we're talking about, there's a ripple effect of what's happening down there. And this particular access point has some really bad problems. But it's not like you can say, don't park here today, Joe Smith, you know, don't do that again tomorrow. Every day it's different people coming down there to the park. People that don't know the problems, that don't appreciate the problems, that don't have to deal with the problems. And then they're going for their one day of visit, and the rest of the residents and the homeowners are stuck. There have been some safety concerns where the emergency vehicles have not been able to make that turn because of the parking. I think I sent some of the pictures to Matt, so I guess they're in this file, they're not on the overhead.
That's right. Those pictures, I believe, all the correspondence that have come in have been placed in that public folder, which is available online for everybody to view.
One of the, tying into what Commissioner Ball had requested or had assured us about development happening with us and not to us, I think we would welcome, if there's going to be significant development like this in Fort Morgan, that we speak with the developer, be part of it, talk with the residents, because maybe a lot of these concerns you don't want to inherit by adding on to our road or connecting with our road or intersecting our road. You want to start with a clean slate for your development and not pick up on somebody else's problems. So I think the parking's a real issue. There's, I've kind of touched on sewage and the other utilities. One of the utilities that's not mentioned, and you'll never get a letter from the person who runs this utility, but it's drainage down there, and it's kind of being handled by Mother Nature and our wetlands. Every time that we go to Board of Adjustments and they allow a wetlands variance, and that wetland is being filled in, built on top of, now there's no place for that water to go except to the neighbors who have been there for decades, and their house is not as high as where the wetlands were. So all of these things are just ripple effects that happen from one house, and now we're seeing 7 houses go in, and we're having some real problems right now. To approve 7 houses without these issues being addressed and the concerns being addressed, I think it's a real disservice to the people who live there and to the new developers, because they don't want to inherit the problems and pass it on to whoever they're selling their properties to. And I'll step aside. But I do encourage you to vote to deny this. I know it's not on vote for tonight. And last question, all of our comments and letters, that'll continue to follow the case through the process. We don't have to come each time. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Judy Newcomb.
My name's Judy Newcomb. I live at 771 Surfside Drive on Fort Morgan. I spent most of my life in Baldwin County on the Eastern Shore, living there, so I can tell you that it's quite a different experience living in Fort Morgan, and we have a lot of issues that until you've lived there, you don't really understand. When you build 7 cottages, it's not like building 7 cottages up on the Eastern Shore where you have 2 or 3 cars with the teenager and your bedrooms are full, and occasionally you have a party with a bunch of kids. These 7 cottages will be a party probably 10, 12 months a year, so you're talking about an awful lot of traffic, an awful lot of people, because probably most of them at some point will be used for rentals. And if they have 6 bedrooms, even if they say maybe we only sleep 12, they'll have 20 or 25 people in them most of the time. And I think so when you're approving these things, you have to take the uniqueness of how these cottages are going to be used. And at the moment, the crisis, if you're living there, particularly, I've never seen it, and I've been here through a lot of hurricanes. I've been in the county since '85. Been involved with county business for many years. But after Sally, and I've owned my house down in Fort Morgan since 2000, we've had unbelievable flooding that really hasn't been explained or taken care of, by the county. Now, the county's done a study. We've been told that they've come up with some plans to help with the drainage, but they're not sure where they're going to get the funding. If we already have this extensive flooding issue, I don't see how we can support any more large development till the county deals with that, or they at least know if they do have these plans that are going to deal with it, that they're going to be funded. And as far as I can tell, Alabama Code Section 42-2-261 point, I think it's 64. Can't read my own writing, unfortunately. But that statute, and I'm sure since y'all have been on here a long time, you understand we have that statute that protects that area, the uniqueness of that area, the historic nature of the area, the infrastructure of the area, and hurricane safety of the area. And I don't really see, and so flooding is a big thing. And then how are we going to evacuate all these people on this road? I had a client come to my office just the other day who came from Fort Morgan, and he talked about it's March. And if most of you have been here a long time, you know 15 years ago in March, we could drive these roads and there wouldn't hardly be anybody down there. And he griped about how long it took him because of the traffic. Can you imagine? In my neighborhood, there's huge houses going up that are going to have even more traffic. And then you add this development or other developments and we have the same roads. And it's not this development. That our road, if you go down there and if you saw it, that's going to be a problem with the traffic that's going to be in our cottages. But in the bigger picture, I ask you to consider how can we keep having these big impacts till we do deal with the drainage and the hurricane safety issues. It has to be dealt with, and I think under the statute it requires that the county, as part of approving this, tell us how they're going to deal with those issues. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm hearing, I have to be the bad guy in this. I'm hearing some of the same comments, so please, if you're repeating something that's already been said, just tell us that it's already been said. So Deborah Giles, we got 4 more. All right, Linda Keyhart.
That was amazing. You said Keyhart. Great. Thank you. I've owned the property at 562 Hour Road for 9 years, and I purchased the property because we had vacationed there, and I thought the peace and quiet. I am next door to a 7-bedroom house, and I can tell you this morning there were 20 cars in and about my house. That means we have to rope our driveways and take care of that. It is nothing that happened to me in 9 years ago has anything to do with what's happening today. I cannot possibly imagine, and I won't repeat because everybody's been absolutely correct. It's an amazing mess. And I've had 4 feet of water on my lower level. And I will tell you that the FEMA paid me $200 to get that out, but there it is a change that I'm all about quality of life, and what these things do is change what most of us came here for. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Nichols. Reagan Ford.
I want to thank you for your time today. I didn't come and plan to say anything, but as more talk was done, I want to bring up 2 things. Number 1, actions speak louder than words, and I'm hard of hearing, and I could read a little bit of what the new developer is trying to do, and all I'd ask to say is before you do anything, if he's got a past record, look at it, because my yard's set for at least 2.5 to 3 months and 16 to 14 inches of water. I'm on 692 Guffway Drive. And the other thing is the parking. We don't have a big parking problem, but I do have friends that do live in other places. And just what we have is okay, but I know the other places do, and I'll leave it right there. Thank you very much.
Okay. That's all I have signed up. Did I miss anyone? Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions for the applicant or for staff from all that you heard?
I have a question. I know they have to go and get a variance, or that's the next thing that y'all are proposing. They go back, variance come back in May, but and that's about the green space 50%. But just to address the Our Road situation, not everything else, but they have enough space on that property, even with the beach mouse and the wetland delineation on the front, to come through the front. So in y'all's conversations with the developers, that ever come up to allow just access to those homes versus using our road?
That question has not come up. If you look just south, the most northern property line, south of 180, those three triangle areas is where the wetlands are.
Are they not delineate that? I hate to say filling it in, but is that not part of the, are you leaving that wetland? I know the beach mouse can't be disturbed, but you're delineating by, in some sense, you're filling it in if it's not an overflow.
The applicant might be able to address that better. Okay, go ahead.
Fortunately and unfortunately all at the same time, the beach mouse habitat, the best habitat coincides with the wetland. So there, that back dune is prime beach mouse habitat. I used to always think the sand was where the mouse was. He's not. He's back there in the plant. So it's not a good spot if there's an option.
Is it possible if you came south of that off of our road and then do a cut in past the habitat to create a private drive, parking, et cetera, in behind the cottages?
I think anything's possible. I would ask it's not compelling from the developer side unless you guys say we would only approve it if you did that. It's better to be closer to the view because we start gobbling up more of the property. We're already off the beach, so we're trying to line up with that south line and make sense of it, and we're only gaining, 200 feet down the road. Good question, but I'm not jumping on it.
Mr. Walker, has the developer, has he worked with any of the adjacent property owners on any of the issues we've heard tonight? And I'm saying that from the standpoint of, are there other options? I know that could be price tag, and I'm not saying it's on your developer to do, working with the county even. And I'm familiar with some of this area, but even to the east where our road dead ends, is there any potential for connecting that road to the east?
I don't think that the developer is completely objectionable to that. Just like any project, he's got timeline issues, and there's a strategy to doing a private road versus getting into the process of opening up right away and going through that. We're already running into stuff we didn't foresee as we're going and doing the best we can, but yes, we talked about it, but it just didn't seem like the best strategy for this project. Is it off the table? Absolutely not, but that's where we are today. This is what we're shooting for today, but it's a good question as well.
Okay.
I have a question. Are these cottages going to be rental cottages, or are these going to be sold individually?
They're going to be sold individually, and I can't speak to what will happen after that.
And this question is maybe more for staff. As we look in areas such as this that, some of these units may be purchased by individuals who frequent them more irregularly, a number of these cottages will get purchased to be utilized as rental properties. My question is in regards to our parking requirements. Yes, for the physical footprint of a 6-bedroom cottage, our parking requirement is what? Technically only 3. This is a different scenario in this type environment than what we normally deal with, and I guess my question is that something we need to address in more of these recreational areas?
Well, the parking requirements you're referring to is only for Planning District 25. What you just stated is the reason we have those parking requirements. We added them not too long ago because of the complaints of not having enough parking spaces.
So what we're looking at here, the actual requirements are actually updated from where they were.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And they are specific to Planning District 25.
Correct.
Okay.
Selena, the concern or the issues related to the parking on the right-of-way for that beach access, is that a complaint brought to the county that has been dealt with at all? Obviously, it hasn't been dealt with, but, I mean, that's a police issue to me, not that. Is there signage that says, is it open, first off, is that beach access open to the public or just for the people in that subdivision?
That might be a question for Highway. I know in the past there has been concerns and it has been brought up. I'm not sure what the result was.
I'll just add on to there. This is a issue throughout all of the beach areas, not just even Fort Morgan, but up and down. And I think it's anywhere in the country where there's beaches, they deal with this very issue. One thing I would just note here for the commission is a reminder that this is a rezoning case. It is great that we're now going to have this 2-month buffer before it comes back to you for a final vote, assuming that's what you decide to do tonight to postpone that. And we can really circle with Highway and look at that. But also remember, this will come back to you as a subdivision, which will have a very technical analysis of the road requirements, drainage requirements, and things of that nature. But certainly part of a zoning consideration is whether or not there is the infrastructure to support the proposal.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing. Keep in mind this is I'm sorry. We have a request to postpone this to, do we want to say to the May meeting? Or do we just want to postpone to until they've gotten their variance and they reapply? Or
Either is fine. The soonest they could come back is May. They could apply, the soonest BOA meeting they could apply for is in April. So the soonest they could come back to you is May. So you could say May or after, or just May, either.
Yeah. I would feel like we want to put some definite timeline on it at least.
Okay. All right. Then I'm looking for a motion to postpone this item until a date you suggest.
I got a question. Will there be another public hearing?
There could be. We've had the public hearing tonight, but if they come back with a changed plan or and there are more people show up, I guess it's our discretion to do it.
That's right. There would not be a new advertisement of a public hearing, but at the chairman's discretion, he can choose to take more comments, public comments from the floor. And we would recommend that with a case like this, in case there's been something new that's come up.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we postpone this case until the May meeting.
Okay. Mr. Bice made a motion to postpone until May.
Seconded.
Greg Seibert seconded the motion. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Motion is approved. Okay. Our next item will open public hearing for case number Z21-11 Lipscomb property. Does anybody need to clear any prior communication on this item? Okay, Ms. Lee?
The applicant is requesting to rezone 2.07 acres from RA to RSF1. The subject property currently consists of 10 acres, but they're only wanting to rezone the 2.07 acres in order to subdivide them out into 2 lots. On your screen is the locator map and the area photography. As you can see, the surrounding properties are RA, and there's also some conservation resource. There's some RSF1 properties in the surrounding area. And the surrounding uses are appear to be mostly residential and wooded. These are pictures of the subject property. That's the existing house on the property. This is the adjoining property to the north, the adjoining property to the south, and the property across the street, which is residential. And I must apologize. They originally asked for RR, and apparently I failed to take that out and put in the RSF1 zoning requirements. These are the proposed two lots. They're 45,000 square feet each. So that is why they're asking for the RSF1 zoning designation. Although the requested change is a residential designation, staff believes that the change is compatible with the existing development pattern, as the RSF1 designation is for residential use and surrounding uses are residential. The future land use designation of agricultural has been provided for the subject property. Approval of the rezoning will result in an amendment to the future land use map to residential. These are the comments from the Highway Department. And this is a letter from, I guess, an adjacent property owner. She doesn't say she's for or against it. She seems to be just talking about the fact that all the property around it is zoned RA and it should be farmland. I don't know. As stated previously, the requested zoning is RSF1, and it is to allow for two 45,000 square feet lots to be subdivided from the subject 10-acre parcel. Staff does recommend approval of the rezoning request, and I'll answer any questions you may have for staff.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Lee?
Mr. Chairman, the only question I have, and this may be an optical illusion looking at the property images, is this a communications tower that is on this property, or is it in the distance and it just is an optical illusion in the photograph?
Where do you see a communication
This
tower?
is on page 137.
I don't know what's on page 137.
Oh.
So which
Sorry
picture
about
are we looking at?
Yeah, right there.
Oh, okay. I really don't know if it's on that property or if it's on the property that's, I don't know if it's on this property or this one. I can't tell.
We'll find out. The applicants, the representative here, I think the applicant's here too.
The only question I had, the existing house, is it on one of the lots that we're proposing? And if
No. So if you look at this drawing,
There's on the bottom. Yeah.
the existing house is here in this spot. The existing house will be on the remnant 7.93 acres.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Thank you, Ms. Lee.
You're welcome.
I have Melissa Curry's here to speak on it. You need to add anything?
Good evening, Melissa Curry with Dewberry Engineers here on behalf of the applicant. So I did request that we pull the survey back up because it does show the tower and the guy wires. So you can see that there is what are property line ties showing there, and the tower is sort of in the middle of the property, and it's quite a bit away from where the two lots are that are requested for the rezoning. And then, as Ms. Lee pointed out, the house is not on the area that's being rezoned.
There's the tower.
So this right here is the tower, the guy wire. These are the two lots.
Okay. Does that help, Bill?
So it's not on the.
The only,
No.
the fall line of that tower, does that have the potential to impact the property that you're zoning, which I assume is going to be?
I would not think so. I don't have a scale on me, but I mean, that is a pretty good bit away.
Looking at 10 acres and this 7 acres is going to be less, I'm pretty sure that tower's pretty far from the proposed lots. You did say that's right. It's on the other parcel over here.
It looks like it's about 800 feet away. I just did a quick scale with my handy
Okay.
pen.
Any other questions, Ms. Curry? Thank you. I don't think we have. You have anything else? You have anything else?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
That's all I had signed up. Did I miss anybody that wanted to speak? Okay. Ms. Lee, you have anything? I'd entertain, this is a recommendation to the county commission for this rezoning.
Ms. Linda, just to make sure I understand this correctly, they're only requesting a rezoning of the area where the two future parcels will be carved out.
Correct.
Yeah, just the two shaded ones where it says proposed rezoning for RSF1.
And then
2.07 acres.
that will come back to us later as a subdivision request.
Correct.
Thank you.
As far as I know, yes.
I would make a motion that we recommend approval to rezone the two lots, the 2.07 acres from RA to RSF1.
Okay. Michael Mullis made the motion to approve the rezoning request, or excuse me, to approve a recommendation to the county commission for rezoning this. Have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bias has seconded the motion. Any comments, questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion or the recommendation is approved. All right, we'll open public hearing for case number Z22-1, TKC South AL Housing Property.
So the applicant is requesting to rezone 3.91 acres from RTF6 to RMF6. The proposed use would be for a multifamily district. The purpose for this request is to have the property zoned for the current use. There's currently apartments on the property, and if there were a storm or fire or something in the future that were to destroy the apartments more than 50%, they want to have the right to rebuild what is there. These are pictures of the subject property, the adjoining properties to the north, south, and across the street. And this is the site plan that's submitted that shows you the existing apartment complex. The requested change is a residential multifamily designation. Staff believes that the requested change is compatible with the existing development pattern, as the RMF6 zoning designation is for residential use and the surrounding uses are residential. Also, there are apartments in the town of Loxley less than 1,000 feet to the north. The future land use designation of residential has been provided for the subject property. The proposed zoning designation conforms to the master plan. This is a map showing you the town of Loxley partial zoning map, and the part that's circled in red is the location of the apartments that are about 1,000 feet to the north of this subject property. And this picture shows you the subject property at the south, and up where you see Celeste Court, that is the apartments, and then across the street, the town has them as apartments. They look kind of like condos, but the town has it as apartments, both of them. These are the comments from the Highway Department. The town of Loxley was sent a notice, and we did not receive any comments. Staff does recommend approval of this proposed zoning request, and I'll answer any questions you have for staff.
And before you say anything, I forgot to ask if anybody needs to declare any prior communication on this item. There is none. Now, does anybody have any questions for staff?
Ms. Linda, was this constructed prior to zoning in this district?
Yes, these apartments have been there, I think, for approximately 20 years, but it was prior to zone.
Okay.
And we really don't know why they zoned it two-family instead of multifamily, because it was already apartments.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Thank you, Mr. Lee. I have one signed up, Jim Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. I can't improve on the work that your staff has done. I'm just here to answer any questions that I can answer for you.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Coleman? Seem to be none.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else that I may have missed? Looks like there's not many left. So I will close the public hearing, entertain a motion. This will be a recommendation of the County Commission.
I would make a recommendation that we recommend approval for the rezoning from RTF6 to RMF6.
Okay. Mr. Mullick made a motion that we recommend approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Was that Bill?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Recommendation is approved. Okay. Our last rezoning case will open public hearing for case number Z22-2, Dunnonworth property. Does anybody need to declare any prior communication on this item? Ms. Hart.
All right, this parcel is located in Planning District 33, in the Lillian area. It is on the northeast corner of Rosalia and Perdido Street. It's currently zoned RSF1 and is 1.1 acres. The request is to rezone to RSF2, and the rezoning is being requested because they would like to be able to subdivide the property into 3 lots. Here is the zoning map. There is RSF2 directly across the street and to the northwest. There's also RMF6 zoning, which is interesting for right there. And then their aerial map. To the north in the B1 is a Masonic Lodge, and there's vacant land and residential use around it. Here are the property images of the subject property is vacant to the north, and then to the west in the RMF6 has a single family dwelling, and then to the south there is a subdivision. This is a map that the applicant has submitted. They would like to be able to place a manufactured home on the north portion of the property and then subdivide it into 2 additional lots. This area of Planning District 22 consists mostly of residential zoning. Adjacent properties are zoned residential, multifamily, and commercial. These are the comments from Highway. They would just have to have a residential access onto Rosalia. They can apply through the permit department. I received no other comments on this parcel. The current zoning of RSF1 residential and RSF2 are both recommended from the master plan for this district. And they've said they wanted to rezone this in order to subdivide it into 3 lots. They had submitted a survey that they had done a while back for 4 lots, but they said they were not going to do that. They want to do 3. Staff sees no, unless something comes up here, see no problem with this request and has recommended approval. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for staff?
Okay.
Okay, I have Mr. Dunnonworth.
Gentlemen, what I have is a piece of property. It's 302 feet along the street, 160 feet deep. I'd like to divide it into 3 lots. That'll be about 16,000 square feet per lot, which exceeds the county specifications. I need 1 lot to build on for myself and 2 to help pay for my house. So 2 to sell, 1 to live on. It conforms to all the homes around the neighborhood, and in any case, I'm asking your permission to go ahead and get it rezoned so I can get a house started.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anybody have any questions? Mr. Dunnonworth. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
All right. I will close the public hearing. Any questions for staff? Ms. Hart, you have anything else? Okay.
No.
We'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we recommend approval for the rezone from RSF 1 to RSF 2.
All right. Michael Mullick's made the motion to recommend approval to the county commissioners. Have a second? I'm sorry, I didn't see. Oh, Mr. Davis. Second the motion. Any questions, comments? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion is approved. Okay, that is the last of our rezoning cases. We do have 1 old business item, case number S-20011, Magnolia Acres Phase 2. Mary, you going to tell us about this one?
Yes, sir. This is a request to extend the preliminary plat approval that was approved on March 5th of 2020. This is for a 17-lot subdivision. You'll see on the screen that's the proposed lots, which would be lots 11 through 27. This is their request, their written request. This is the plat that was approved on the March 5th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. This is what's currently out there now. Phase 1 is lots 1 through 10, which front on County Road 28. The southern portion is approximately 37.8 acres and was eventually going to be Phase 2 and Phase 3. Right now, they only have approval for Phase 2. So they have requested an extension of that phase. This is the site map, the aerial view. As previously stated, the preliminary plat approval was issued 3/5/2020. The owner the owner/developer has failed to comply with construction plan review and has not obtained a subdivision permit before he commenced with construction. There was a cease work letter issued on March 8th, 2021. Additionally, there was a notice of violation issued on 11/29/2021, which was also some of the bullets that were pointed out were construction without a subdivision permit. And he was also developing lot 27, which was not approved under the Phase 2. That was supposed to be the future development or future Phase 3. So there are a couple additional violations. He does have more than 2 dwellings on a single parcel without an approved subdivision permit. And he has placement of a dwelling or what we consider to be a mobile home on the property without final plat approval. Again, this is what was previously approved, and these are some changes that they're proposing to amend the plat if the extension is granted. This is a timeline that I prepared. I did not include that in your staff report. I prepared this afterwards just to be able to put on the screen to show the timeframe of some of the communications back and forth between the developer. Staff does recommend that the preliminary plat extension request for the Magnolia Acres Phase 2 be denied due to the violations described in staff comments.
Okay.
And I'll answer any questions you may have.
Okay, anybody have any questions?
I have a question, or what, going out of order and doing things before obtaining their permits and whatever, what repercussions followed those activities?
The Highway Department issued a cease work order, and the applicant was advised that he's to come in and comply with the subdivision construction plan review. He has made no efforts to do that. He's not submitted any construction plans because he was trying to get the Phase 2 plat amended. There was, like I say, the first revision to us was on April 26, 2021. We responded April 27, 2021. His second revision was on July 6th. We responded on July 28th. They issued the notice of violation on the 29th of November, and we received the third revision on the 31st of January. The reason for the revisions is he was changing things that required additional comments between staff and highway, and so we had to send back comments to him. And so we just finally got the third revision on January 31st of this year, and his plat is expiring, so there's not a whole lot of time. So we advised get the extension request before we move forward with administrative approval of the revisions.
Mr. Chairman, where it says more than 2 dwellings on a single parcel, have those been built?
They are not permanent dwellings. They are in the form of a mobile home. They're in the form of an RV camper, and they're in the form of a motorhome.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Ms. Booth, if we deny this, does that mean he would have to start all over?
Yes, sir. To the current subdivision regulations.
And if I could interject here, we deal with some really great developers who have a really good program in place and work really hard to produce good developments, even if people don't want to see the growth. But then there are some developments that we expend an incredible amount of staff time on, just trying to get them to follow some basic requirements. And this is one of those, and we do feel like probably the best way to get this developer to respond appropriately to the requirements is to not extend this approval.
Are you dealing with the developer or with the engineer for the developer, or both?
And we do have our code enforcement officer here, Ori King, who I think is handling this case, either Vince or Ori, if one of them want to come up, but I believe primarily with the developer in this case.
Okay. And I didn't ask it, is this a public hearing?
No, sir.
It's not. Okay, thank you. I didn't think it was.
If we deny this, it's 12 months where he could bring it back, or he could bring it back differently.
So in this case, you're not actually denying an application in this case. He hasn't built it in 24 months, and so it's going to lapse. So he has the option of basically come before y'all and say, can I get an extension on my approval? And y'all, really, you're just not approving his extension. You're denying his extension request. And I don't believe there's any time bar for him there. He's actually told us he's going to come and submit a new application tomorrow. So we'll see if he shows up.
Okay. Tell me what I need to hear. Entertain a motion.
Motion to deny extension.
Mr. Nance made a motion to deny the extension. Do I have a second? Mr. Tonsmeyer seconded the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Extension request is denied. Okay. Ms. Fleming needs to run. Thank you, Aaron. Happy birthday to her. All right. Do we want to go ahead and handle, Matthew, our special call meeting?
That would be great, sir.
The only person that wouldn't know about it other than through emails would be Daniel. So for the Little Point Clear, we have made a decision. I think that what we will do now is I will call for a special call meeting to be held on March 22nd, 4 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
And with your all's approval, then we will have a special call meeting on March 22nd.
And if we just get a motion in a second on that.
Okay. Mr. Paget's made the motion. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Mr. Seibert seconded the motion. Anybody have any questions about that? Please don't. No, I'm kidding.
That's correct. That's a great point because it's on a different day of the week than we normally hold these meetings.
Anything else you need to say on that, Matthew? All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Anybody got any other new business? Any public comments? No public's here. Staff reports.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to go through these very quickly. First of all, we do have a new acting county administrator. Many of you have met him before. Ron Sink, he was here for some of the beginning of the meeting, but don't ever hesitate to reach out to him with any questions or concerns about what we're doing as a team, and we look forward to working under him. Also want to introduce our newest team member. I don't know if she's actually still here, but Shawn Mitchell. She will be helping with our subdivision review process. And the team has been working very, very hard, and I look forward to having this extra bandwidth to help keep these cases on track, do good work on them, but it's also service to the development community and the public to make sure we're processing them in a reasonable time. And the team's doing a phenomenal job with that right now. We just don't want Buford to have to work 90 hours every single week. So we appreciate that's right. Wanted to also note, and we discussed this during work session, the county commission did take a different position on the rezoning case, but that was due in large part to an agreement that took place between the school board and the developer. That was the Toro Ridge. It was case Z21, 5 zeros and a 7. That was a Davison property case. You heard that in January. Otherwise, pretty much all the cases have been the county commission has been taking the action that you've recommended. Reminder that we had those 2 new zoning districts. If you know someone who's a registered voter in those districts interested in serving on the advisory committee, please have them get a form in. We'll be doing an agenda item in the next couple days for that, for the county commission to appoint those individuals. So again, pass that on if you know someone. We will have a proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance at our next meeting, so that's going to take up some time in the meeting to go through those changes, but we'll do that then. We'll probably maybe focus on that in the work session, even some of the presentation there. Also a reminder, this has come up, but we'll continue to have these comprehensive plan meetings. We have a series coming up. I don't want to state the dates wrong, but I think that's March 14th and 15th. I have that right here. March 16th and 17th, there'll be 4 of them, one in Foley, one in Robertsdale, one in Bay Minette, and one in Fairhope. And I'll make sure I have an email out to y'all in case you have questions. Also, regarding the zoning amendment that I mentioned earlier, we're going to do 2 stakeholder meetings, very similar to what we did with the subdivision amendments we did last. Those are going to be March 11th and March 31st here in this facility, and I'll send those out to y'all in an email as well. We do have some vacancies on our Board of Adjustments and also on our Planning Commission. It's really, you all have been great, very consistent. It's so important to have that attendance in these meetings. But if you know of folks who just based on your experience with them would be good, qualified folks who are willing to put the time in to this important effort, let me know. We'd love to talk to them and see if they would be interested in either serving on one of our Board of Adjustments or even from the Fort Morgan area. For Mr. Church. That's all I have tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
This is a question. Is there a current vacancy on this board with the resignation of Mr. Church?
There is, yes, sir.
Will that be replaced by someone from Fort Morgan?
It will be. The replacement will come from Fort Morgan.
Okay. All right. There's nothing, the legal counsel didn't have anything she had to leave. Our next meeting will be April the 7th. Unless somebody has anything else, we are adjourned.